Have you ever felt like abandoning your vision when the path gets unclear? Or maybe you're anything like me where the path got unclear and you did abandon your vision. Well, if that's ever been you, or you've ever worried about that or said, I want to burn all the ships or throw in the towel, or why am I even doing that? This episode is for you. 87% of entrepreneurs said that they've ignored their vision because it seemed too big or too unrealistic. Yet studies show that the most successful leaders are those who followed their God-given vision, even when the path made no logical sense, which even reminds me of the podcast I did about intuition, but we'll get back to that at another time. And so welcome back to the Mind of George Show. This is a show for entrepreneurs who know that scaling their business isn't just about strategies and tactics. It's about breaking free from slimy marketing, outdated business models, and copy and paste templates, as well as the mindset limitations that get in the way of us scaling, all so that you can actually grow and scale your business without needing to give your soul a shower when you put your head on the pillow at night. Because your business is a direct reflection of you, and being in alignment both for you and your customers makes it fun and makes it easy. And today's guest is one of my dear friends, a woman that I love, I admire, and I respect, Chantal. She's an absolute powerhouse entrepreneur, a mother who turned a 13-year-old's vision into a movement that's genuinely transforming women's lives all across Australia. And she navigated the darkest seasons of entrepreneurship, including losing everything during the pandemic, sitting through college, becoming a psychologist to realize it was no longer her passion. But during all of this, she discovered that her true alignment isn't about perfection. It's about being a magnet, always returning to your true north. And in this episode, we share her story, she shares her insights and her wisdom, and we talk about why your illogical path might be exactly where you need to be, how to navigate those dark seasons of entrepreneurship without losing sight of that vision, the difference between mission and vision and why it matters, and what true alignment looks like in business and life. And at the deepest part, how to turn isolation into connection and impact, which is a message we can all resonate with. So I'm really excited for today's show. Chantal, thank you for coming on. But without further ado, let's dive into the episode. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mind of George Show. And today I am really, really excited because I have like my sister from another mister on a completely different continent, about as far away as possible in the world, but a woman who I love dearly. I love her heart. I love her mind. I love her journey as an entrepreneur. And I think one of the most powerful things that's going to get unpacked today, besides alignment and besides the feelings and emotions that we face as an entrepreneur, is understanding that I think true success boils down to being willing to play the craziest game of God-led hopscotch that you could ever imagine. Because all too often we fall into these timelines and these patterns of linear steps, or if I do 1, 2, I'm going to get 3. And truthfully, the most successful people that I've ever met, including today's guest, in hindsight, looking back, looks like, oh, this all makes sense. But in the moment, feels like you're jumping from planet to planet to planet. And just to even give context, when she had the vision of entrepreneurship, she's like, I want to do event management in a country that doesn't really have events, to then I'm going to go to university, become a psychologist, walk in to start counseling hours and being like, this is not the way I want to do it, to living dressed in corporate suits and saying, this does not feel like me, to her husband saying, I can't be your personal stylist, I'm going to find you one, hires one, has an experience, and then realizes she gets to be an image consultant and stylist and take basically patient care into the changing room, and now is launching this giant mission to empower women called the Powerhouse Collective. And so besides being an incredible mother and an incredible woman, I don't even know how else to intro today's guest. So Chantal, welcome to the show. We hope you have a beautiful day, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Thank you so much, George, for that introduction.
Well, I told you, I'm gonna be your hype man forever. Like, I'm in. I'm numero uno fan. Even our first conversation was you in a parking garage with spotty Wi-Fi, and we talked for hours. And I was like, I got you. Like, I'm just so glad and honored to know you.
Yes, thank you so much. And I will completely and always treasure that discovery call with you, with me, parked in my car in a garage, because it was a crazy hour of the morning and everyone was sleeping, and it was the only place in the house that I could go and have a really incredible, life-changing conversation with.
Yeah, and it was, and for me as well. I mean, like, I'm smiling ear to ear because I love how our paths connected and how they've stayed connected and how our friendship has grown, and like opportunities and events, and it's beautiful. And I want to focus, because I could talk to you all day, and you and I talk a lot, and so I want to focus on you because so many people look at me and they're like, you know, your journey doesn't really make sense. I'm like, I'm aware. I'm like patient zero. I'm inside of it. I'm like, you know, have a Harry Potter series, except they're in like 18 different genres. And you have a very, very similar story. And I gave everybody listening a little bit of an insight into your journey. And I think with what I know about you and all the wisdom that you have to share with people about alignment and about uncertainty and really like honoring yourself, I think hearing it from you is going to be really, really powerful to kind of frame, like, how did we take the 13-year-old that had this vision of life and we get to the version of you now that has this clarity and is kind of leaning in. And I've watched and personally witnessed like step into faith and vision and being willing to make adjustments. So I'd love to hear it from you.
Yes, well, that introduction sounded, just even listening to it, like crazy. I'm like, who on earth does that, right? That is not your traditional, this is what I want to be when I grow up, and then here I am today. And I guess reflecting, even knowing I'd be on this podcast, reflecting on where did my journey begin was very pivotal for me, because I don't know about you, but I don't think or believe that as children we're sat down and taught like, this is how you do life and you're going to have a vision and this is what the vision's going to entail, and then from there you will create your mission. And so to come back to that pivotal moment of when did I feel that vision was on my heart was at the age of 13, and it actually happened at a youth camp. It was my first ever youth camp. My parents put me on a bus with my best friend, super excited, had no idea what to expect at my first ever youth camp away from my family. And going to this youth camp where there was all these different youth groups and all these incredible pastors from parts of the world really took me by surprise. Because I was like, wow, there's a lot of event coordination that goes into putting something like this. And that for me, that somehow really captured me. I was like, that's amazing. Like 7 days of youth camp and all these little parts that moved together to make it what it was mind-blowing to a 13-year-old. But the one message out of those 7 days of this youth camp that stuck with me was this pastor who got up and spoke. His name's Matthew Barnett from LA. And I can't really recall what his big message was, but he shared a story about how his father had a vision, and this word vision was very new to me. Was that his father had this vision to create a church, and from this church have almost like a community center that would go out into the community and help people. Now, obviously, and it's called the Dream Center. It's still standing today. It's really magnificent what they do. And that story of having this vision to create something and what it had become at that time, which is over a good 20 years ago, stuck with me of how someone can do something like that. And for me, I knew in my heart, I was like, wow, I want to help people. But what's my point of difference? Like, how am I going to help people? Because you can help people in all sorts of ways. And I just remember coming back and I was like, oh, I want to have a dream center. Like, I want to have something that helps people. And it's going to be a dream center, just not in the US. It's going to be in Australia. So obviously I went through my teen years, and the typical question that kept getting asked in the house was, what are you going to do when you finish school? And I was like, well, I guess like the number one thing, I'm not really good with like blood and broken bones. So I'm not really going to get into medicine, but I can become a counselor. I'll become a psychologist. So off I went to uni and did my psych degree thinking I'd become a psychologist. But in the midst of that, I was like, well, I need to start creating something that's going to help people. So I'm going to start my own business in event management. Little did I know that event management had stuck with me since the age of 13, but it did. Really had no idea what I was doing, juggling uni and trying to start up an event management company. Especially in Australia, there's very few event coordinators. because we don't, I guess, have those big events like the US, where you require like a wedding planner and a party planner. So here I am at uni. I was like, okay, I don't think this is really working, but it was teaching me some things about business as I was researching. And then the time came, I finished, graduated uni, still was like, yep, I'm going to become a psychologist. Started doing these counseling hours. And I just remember there was this like one session specifically, I was struggling. I was struggling to focus. I was like, this is going to be my life in these four walls, listening. And I can appreciate psychologists for what they do, but I'm like, this is actually not for me. Like, I don't think I can help people at this level. This is just not cutting it for me. And especially because I am highly creative, I was like, I think I need something else. But you know what? What else am I going to do? I've already went and got my qualification. I need to stick it out. And at that point, I was doing my counseling hours, but I also needed to secure a job. So I was like, I'm a newlywed. I'm like this young wife. What do I wear to all these interviews that I was landing? I will just wear a black suit. And I remember looking in the mirror thinking, oh my goodness, is this really what I look like? Like, I feel really crap about myself. Like, not only am I going to now hate my career, I'm going to hate looking at myself in the mirror, wearing these ugly suits, trying to look like I'm a professional psychologist. And so my husband at that point, very new into our marriage, he's like, look, I love you and everything, but I really can't like afford every morning to be standing here picking between a navy suit and a black suit for these interviews. So I've actually just bought you this one-on-one shopping session. I believe it's with this professional like image consultant, and she'll probably help you just pick maybe a third suit to pick from. So here it is. I love you, babe. Go have a great shopping session. And I was like, okay, sure. So I went to this shopping session, again, sitting in this consultation, just pouring my heart out. Like, I really don't like the career path that I'm going to be heading towards. And I really don't like what I look like in the mirror, because I'm clearly getting all these interviews, but there's no alignment. Like, they obviously want me in the interview because they like what they see on paper, but something happens. I think they just don't like the way I look. And she's like, yeah, probably because you're trying to look like a 30-year-old psychologist who's been counseling people for the last 10, 20 years. And I was like, oh, is that my issue? And she just, in that 1 hour, picked me one dress, taught me so many things. She's like, that's all you need to do. And it compliments you, and you're embracing yourself and your style, personality, and these are your colors. And I was just blown away. And then she looked at me at the end and she said, Chantal, I really see a gift in you. She's like, you have all that incredible education behind you of what you've learned to speak into people and to work with them. And you're highly creative. Have you ever thought about becoming a stylist? And I was like, no, because up until this day, I didn't even know people like you existed. And she's like, come, I'm going to show you how to do everything. I'll train you. She took me under her wing as my mentor, helped me sign up to a styling course. And that's then how this business evolved, which is what I've been doing for the last 14 years, empowered by style. And I even remember someone when I was starting business, she's like, the best thing or the best advice I can give you with creating a business name is tell me what you do in your business name. And I was like, well, I empower people with style. And she's like, there's your business name. And I was like, wow. So for the last 14 years, I have had the utmost privilege and honor to work with incredible women. And ultimately, they believe they're coming to me for styling and helping them with a little bit of their confidence. But I'm like, the clothing part of what I do is just the cherry on the top, because the real magic happens when they actually see who they really are. And I'm just that link in that moment for them, where we create that transformation, just like how that stylist did for me in that 1 hour shopping session.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so much. There's so much, and I could genuinely listen to you tell that story all day. And that's the first time I've heard it in its full entirety. And even for people listening, like what a gift at 13 to have that vision, because I'm saying this for everybody listening. I didn't even know entrepreneurship was a thing when I became one. Like I was 31 years old. I was like, I'm going to spend my whole life in the military and retire. And I think it just speaks to like allowing yourself at whatever point you find that clarity, whether it's in your childhood, whether it's in your adult years, or whether you're listening to this right now and you're like, you know what? I'm stuck in four walls, but I want to change my style. Like it's a beautiful gift to have it, but also kudos to you for following it on such a deep, profound way, because you mentioned something, and I want to ask you about this, because you mentioned vision, like this God-given vision, this thing that you experienced. And then we also talk about mission,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like most of the struggles that I had early on in entrepreneurship was because all I did was focus on the mission,
Mm.
right? It was just this whoever I have to be, whatever it's going to cost me. But there was no plan. There was no place that I wanted it to land. And you've had this vision, even if you didn't know what it was going to look like, right? Where you're like, I have this vision of helping people, and then this path that God puts in front of you. And then now you use that psychology degree inside of a changing room and using clothes as a catalyst to get there. But can you explain the difference in your lens between like what vision and mission means to you?
Yeah. Vision is that big picture. It's that drive of, it's almost like the end goal, but it's also the everyday goal of what am I doing in the everyday, but it's on a grander scale. So for me, it is empowering women. It is helping them feel that they are who they, or the leader that they want to be. It's just bringing that in to sight for them. So for me, yeah, vision is definitely about that empowerment and giving women confidence to achieve their ultimate dream. Mission, what I have learnt since 13, and probably more so when I started my business, is that mission can change. Mission is the daily tasks we do that keep the
Mm.
pedals moving to
Mm-hmm.
get
Mm-hmm.
to the vision. Although I believe every day you can achieve your vision in what you do, the mission for me is doing it day in, day out, that supports that grand dream.
Yeah, I love that. And I actually asked too, because one of the things that you said was alignment, right? And I think about this vision that you had as a
Yeah.
kid, and then now where you are now, where like you're living in that vision, but there was also this point of following this undertone of alignment. Like you were willing to sit in that room and say, I don't know if I can do this. And it's not that you got this immediate answer
Mm,
or this, like, oh, I'm going to go be a stylist or I'm going to do blank. It was more so you're like, I'm going to see this through. Something feels off and I'm willing to explore this with curiosity,
yes.
and then following what brings it into alignment for you. And I think that that's a big part. Like alignment is a word, I use it all the time, but I also feel like it's thrown
Yeah.
out all the time. It's like this buzzword or this like throwaway word. And even when you talk about what you help women do, and this is just a, and I'm going to own this, just a bald headed dude who only wears black or pink and hoodies and shorts in the winter, right? Like, don't take style advice from me. But in that same bucket, it's like you help women find their identity through their wardrobe to then basically embody it in their state of being. And that's like bringing it into alignment.
Absolutely.
And so, how do you see alignment? And it's like
Mm,
somebody who's walked through this, which is why you are so qualified to do what you do, because like you had to navigate all of this and become, Chantal in a blazer, right? Soulless, looking in a mirror of like, oh, which black do I wear
yeah.
today? Light black, dark black, right? Like all the same shades, to then finding this ability. But like, how do you see alignment, and how have you stayed in
Mm,
alignment like 14 years now in doing this and like continuing to grow? And I'm assuming the vision gets bigger because of the things you shared with
yeah.
me, but like staying on mission. So like, how do you see alignment, and how have you managed to like stay in alignment with that, knowing that there's so many distractions that can come up?
Yeah. And with alignment, I don't think I can say, oh, yes, I do I'm fully aligned every single day, because life happens. And
Yep.
when I reflect on it, I'm like, there is so much growth that happens from year to year, from situation to situation. But it's coming back to, is this drawing me closer to my vision, or is it taking me away from my mission? Am I just working in my business, or am I actually working on my business and the 5-year goals and the 10-year goals? And with alignment, it's something, I don't know if I've heard it somewhere, or if I probably have seen quite a few people embody it, but it's always having that attitude and being willing to learn. And having that, I believe, keeps you on path to alignment, because the second a person can say, well, you know what, I've reached where I wanted to be, I've helped the amount of people I've wanted to help, I've made the amount of money I've wanted to make, that can block the alignment moving forward. And alignment I always see as a straight line, and it's okay to sort of like swerve off just to the right or to the left, but ultimately I want to be like a magnet to that line of, I'm following this path that's taking me and allowing me to fulfill this vision. Obviously it's going to change, which comes back to the mission. And I've seen that, and I reflect on that a lot, that the mission can change, and it's okay for it to change. Like for me, being or thinking I'd become a psychologist, to then becoming a stylist, and then starting another business, a national business, it's like, it's okay for that to change, but it's the working parts and sticking as close as possible to that line of alignment.
That is the best definition I've heard of alignment. I like saw the picture in my brain where I talk about alignment so much, and I think all too often we look at it like it's rigid, when in actuality alignment is dead straight, and the humanity and life, and like you and I both being parents and navigating life to where like, yeah, if I had my dream life and I lived alone, right? And that's not my dream life, but I have this world where I lived alone and I just slept 8 hours a night, I'd have 16 hours a day, and I could be a robot, right? Like I could be like, work out, boom, create, boom. But like that doesn't allow life to happen. So I love the like magnet being back to that line of like coming back into alignment, because I think drift is
Yes.
inevitable, but it's really like not losing the focus of the center point, and like that's the keel in the water, and it's like it's not changing and it's coming back to it. I love the way that you describe that. That's beautiful. Like I'm totally stealing that and giving you credit, because I'm going to start teaching alignment with a straight line and a
Absolutely.
magnet, and knowing that too, and knowing, because I like personally know like your story, and like have even talked to you through business and a lot of these things. You talk about it so eloquently, and you're like, yeah, and here it is, but it also has had its setbacks. And
Absolutely.
one of the things that I love that you say is you don't see setbacks as roadblocks, you see them as like redirections,
Absolutely.
right? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, redirections. I am so grateful, and I've purposely reframed my business life of those, um, just those redirections really being the moments of growth for me. And I like to think of it as entrepreneurs, we definitely have those dark moments, but it's what do we get in those dark moments, in those storms? What's happening? What are we learning here? What are those red flags that really need our attention and focus in order, again, to bring us back to that magnetic line? Yeah, it's the setbacks for me have been, I guess, obviously like most or perhaps some entrepreneurs of the pandemic. Now, originally I was born and raised in Melbourne, Victoria. We had the strictest lockdowns across the world. And just before the pandemic, my business was at its peak. Like it was I'm sure many listeners can identify those peaks of business, and it's like, yes, I'm finally seeing all the hard yards come into play, and it's harvest season now. And that pandemic was what I believe in my story, the darkest of darkest times for me. I was expecting my second child, and I had her. It was all good and well. And 6 weeks after having her, we went into our first ever lockdown. Now I had subcontractors around Australia working for me. And I was like, yep, I'm going on maternity leave for 3 months and I'm going to be back in business because I've done this before and it's worked beautifully. Those 3 months very quickly became the darkest 3 months of what am I doing? Is the world ending? How did I not see this coming? And there was so much self-blame of how could I not see that this would come and affect my business? And now what am I going to do? Because my business has always been one-on-ones, like in the change rooms. The shopping centers are closing down. I guess I really never had, my business was set up that I really didn't have to do any virtual work. Like my clients were flying me outside of Australia, around Australia. My airports are closed, so I can't even go visit my clients and even do a color analysis. And again, those 3 months that turned into 6 months, 2 years was like, you know what? I don't even care about my business anymore. I just need to take care of myself and my family. And I say that it was the darkest time because it was also my loneliest time in business. And not having, I guess, those connections or those business networking events for me that I highly value and I need, it was like my walls were caving in. Now, it was almost like when I sat in that counseling session with my client straight after uni doing my counseling session thinking, what's happening? This was now at another level. And I was like, this is really hard. Like, I'm just going to have to shut my business down. And it just felt like there was this black cloud in front of me of feeling like a failure, of I've just now seen my business account go from what it was pretty much to like a few $100s because I was still paying my subcontractors and ensuring that they were okay and they're meant to be doing what they're doing. But again, it's like, no, that's all right. The world will become normal tomorrow, so I'll continue making the money that I've lost. And in 2 years, it was like the longest 2 years, but also the quickest. I was like, who am I? I don't know what I'm doing anymore as a business owner. And I'm now a failure. Like, I've got nothing. I was having to say goodbye. I can't afford to keep you on as a subcontractor anymore. And obviously in that window, a bit of a personal story. My husband had a work opportunity here in Cairns, where I live now, Cairns, Queensland. And it was like, we have to make a family decision. You risk moving or going to do this project for 2 years, and there's a high chance that our borders will get closed because it was one day open, one day closed, and I don't see you with a newborn, or we all move together and when we get there, we'll figure it out. And we prayed, and it was like one door after another. Within a matter of 6 weeks, we had packed up, put our house on the market. It got sold. It got sold for more than what we even anticipated. And we found ourselves booking flights, bought a house that we hadn't even seen in person, and moved to Cairns. And then it was like, great, we got here. And now what? I now have to find the strength to pull myself out of this really black, heavy cloud as like finding myself as a woman again, because I'm like having a second child. And then as a business person, I was like, business has changed and I've been sleeping these last 2 years. I have no idea how to do business now. Like, I don't even know what Zoom calls are. That's something like really advanced for me. And apparently Instagram was a thing. I was like, where did Instagram even come from? Like, I've been in business for 10 years at the time. Never once have I been or had to market on a social media platform. And that, again, was a really pivotal setback. But in my eyes, I saw it as, okay, there's something that needs to change now for your business. Acknowledge what's happened and now grow your business again. And yeah, one thing led to another of obviously, okay, I need to like learn about social media and yeah, revisit what am I doing, but not allowing it to take away from my vision. And that for me was what was like holding me to life.
Yeah. Wow. Holy moly. I felt that because similar things happened to me. And just good news,
Yes.
everybody. She's on
I'm
the
on
other
the other
side of that
side.
and she knows social media now. And it was even interesting when you were talking about that. One of the things that you said was, not having access to those business events and meetups in person and now knowing what you're launching
Yes.
and like what I'm coming out to be a part of. I was like, look at that whole purpose like baked in, right? And I want to ask you about uncertainty because I have this really interesting take on uncertainty, because I feel like most of the successes in my life have come from me not even like feeling uncertain, right? Like being so committed to the vision of like, there's this knowing in me. But when I think back to like moving to Montana, I'd never even been to this state.
Yeah.
And I moved here sight unseen. And I bought my first home when I got out of the Marine Corps, when I was becoming an entrepreneur, sight unseen. I trusted somebody to look at it and I bought it. And I can look back now and I'm like, man, those were like scary times, but it also wasn't uncertainty. There was like this deep knowing. There was still fear. There was still resistance, right? Like there's still this like kind of leap of faith. But one of the things that you talk about and I hear underneath everything you're saying is like at every one of these doors, it wasn't what I'm hearing is it wasn't what do I have to do? It was more so like who do I have to become? Right? Like it's like you even hear it in like, okay, I went from a mom to like I forgot what business was like. Like I have to relearn this again. It wasn't like, oh, I have to go do marketing or run on Instagram. It was like, no, like I have to look at this differently, curiously. And I feel like that's how you've navigated uncertainty. But can you talk about kind of like the identity shifts? Because like, for everybody listening, to be locked down, to lose your business, to be a mom of a second child, 2 years in, to then husband get a job, 6 weeks later move, have nothing. Like, all right, I guess I'm going to have to relearn all this again. Like, that's not a tactic. That's not like, oh, I'm going to go take this course on the internet. I'm going to go get a
No.
YouTube education. Right. So I would love to personally know, like, it's so empowering to hear, but I'm also over here in awe. Right. And I know I've navigated certain things, but the way that you talk about it, it's like, I can hear you shifting under, and this is where that psychology part's coming in. You're like using it on yourself. You're like, all right, padded walls, me in the room alone. Right. There's only one way out and it's through me. But like, what was that like for you? And like, would you say it's fair? And maybe you can just unpack it, but I feel like I just hear this, like the way that you faced uncertainty is by reinventing yourself in the process.
Absolutely. When I think of those 2 years, and I identify them as the dark parts of entrepreneurship
The dark
because
parts. Yeah.
it was really dark for me. I feel like I honestly, like, there was so much uncertainty, but at the same time, I had to really dig deep. Like, it took a lot out of me. And it was like, that was my rock bottom. Like, I was clueless about who I was. And I feel like it was that pivotal moment of being like, what is my vision? Like, what is my purpose? And how do we get back to that? And you said it perfectly, is who do I need to be now? Because life has happened and I'm so grateful I kept myself alive and my baby alive and my son alive. And we did everything we could as a family. And I was obviously supporting my husband while we were doing all this transition. But it was, what is my vision again? Let's get back to that. And I feel in the midst of all of that, it was like I was coming out of that 2-year window and I had my discovery call with you, George, is that it was that glimpse of hope that you gave me. I was like, that's right. Now I remember what it's like to connect with people. And obviously connection is something I highly, highly value. But that was like the hook for me to be like, oh, that's right. Like, okay, let's find and remember what we're here for. What's the big vision? And now what's our mission now? What is it that I need to do to keep moving, to be in alignment with that woman before pandemic, and now set myself up to be the woman to carve this, I don't want to say new path because it wasn't really a new path, but it was the next level up of this path that's keeping me to my vision. And so when I really look back, I was like, it really came down to that call with you. I had lost touch with all my connections, my business, like mentors, everything. And it was just that trigger of, this is your permission slip, Chantal. And it just came back to me. So yes, there's that uncertainty. But for me, it's always, what's my vision on this earth, and what am I doing to keep it going?
Yeah, that call did the same thing for me, because we didn't know each other.
Yeah.
I think we connected on
Yes.
Instagram, and you got on and you're like, hey, I want to work with you. I'm like, I don't even know if we're in the same
Yeah.
universe. Like, I just want to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And I remember that conversation because we didn't talk for like a short amount of time. I was like, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. I was like, no, here we go. And it was the same for me, because that was a very, very dark time in my life as well. And even having that conversation with you, like I'm the same as you. It's with connection, right? Like at the end of the day, I'm the relationship guy. I just want to be in relationship with people. Like I want people to win. But I don't know, I think I've told you a few times, but that conversation, like your authenticity, your vulnerability, like even your demeanor and candor, and like, here's what's going on and here's what happened, and I moved my family, and like, I'm just going to do this again.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it lit a spark in me too, similar reasons and similar paths, and like the wrapping paper looked a little bit differently. And so I love it, because one of the things that you mentioned is like the dark ages, or the dark years, right? And I feel like it's not a popular conversation. And my challenge in the world that we live in is that somehow it's made wrong to talk about the struggles or the challenges. And entrepreneurship, I feel like, is so isolating.
Oh, absolutely.
And yet the absolute one remedy is connection, right? Like absolute connection. And I know that's something that you experienced and you faced, like the loneliness of it. And you even like the emotional toll of, your subcontractors. And what I can only imagine, without labeling it for you, is like, I remember those feelings of like having to let my CEO go years ago when things got hard. And I'm like, I'm letting somebody down. I'm letting their families down. But then it's really just a part of the process of navigating these things and integrating, and then learning the lessons of like, well, now I know. And I'm going to make sure this never happens again, because like, I don't ever want
Yeah.
to feel this way. But, I also love the fact that you're a trained psychologist, as you've navigated all of this as well, because one of your big missions now is like, you empower women, but you're also bringing together this collection of
I
women.
am.
Like, what are some of your strategies now to like cultivate support systems, or to create ecosystems that kind of keep you in connection with people? Because I feel like for people listening to this, it's probably the number one thing that I hear the most, because I connect with a lot of people, and I hear this all the time. Like, oh, I feel so alone. Like, I don't know where my people are. I feel so alone. And
Yes.
I wish we had the ability to like reach through the laptop when you're not on it and open it for you and be like, get on Zoom, or
Yeah.
like just show up and knock on your door, but you get a restraining order against me. So like, I'd love to know now,
Yeah.
is like, you've walked through this, and now like, I feel like you're surrounded by powerful women, and you have these support systems now. But like, how did you go about that,
Yes.
and like creating that around yourself?
Yes. Well, I remember that call. I wish I could remember word for word, but I remember telling you what was on my heart, because obviously I had moved. And so I had just come out of like 2 years of isolation, and then another, I think it was probably another 2 years of us moving to Cairns. And I was like, oh my goodness, I have now moved from a big city, Melbourne, to this very small town. And I cannot find one of my people here. And I was like, how is there nothing happening at a higher level of what I'm used to? Where are all my business coaches? Where are all my experts in their industries who are changing people's lives? Like, why is there nothing here in my city? And you move to a big city in hopes that like you'll just find everything like that you left back home. It was nothing like that. I found a small network of women, but it wasn't like we're business owners, we're CEOs, like this is how we do business. And I was like, I just can't make this work. And I remember sharing on this call it was like this burning rage inside of me of like, I need to start something. Like, how is there nothing here? But even then I was like, even if I did start it, is there even going to be any woman like a high level woman who wants to help women and grow and like willing to learn and everything? And I remember, George, you said, you're like, just start like a small, just put like a private group together and get these women in a group. And I was like, oh, I don't do things on a small scale. Like that just did not sit right with me. I was like, what do you mean? Just like get these women in a group online together. Like I need to create something out of this. This isn't just like, let's have coffee catch ups. But I loved it because it was that permission of like, well, I won't put them in a small, I don't know, Facebook group or Instagram group. But what I can do is I like hosting. I love organizing events. So I'm going to find some women who are business owners who don't get to have Christmas parties because, we're like business owners and don't have Christmas parties. We do our Christmas parties as entrepreneurs by ourselves. I'll gather them and invite them over to my round table and do like a Christmas get together. And there was 8 women that I had just met. And I was like, hey, you're all business owners. Let's just celebrate Christmas together. And like, we'll have an afternoon tea. And they all loved the idea. Now in my head, I'm considered a new local. I was like, surely these women already know each other. So I'll be the newbie once again in the group. They all came. They're like, hi, introducing themselves. And I was like, hang on, wait. You do not know each other? And they're like, no. And I was like, you all overlap. Like everyone knows each other in Cairns. And like, actually we don't. And in my head, I just sat at the table and they're all talking and having a great time. And I was like, wow, this is like, look at the collaboration that's happening. Look at the like relationships that are getting built between 8 women on a round table in my home. And I was like, yep, I'm going to start something, right? But again, still navigating, trying to get my head out of water and keep myself afloat because my business is growing back again and I'm becoming somewhat of a high-tech newbie to the world. And this went on like this battle inside of me of, oh, I really want to start something, but it's not the right time. I really want to start something. It's just not the right time. I have other stuff to work, like my to-do list, my mission of like helping women and everything and like staying on the course. I was treading water. And I want to talk about something. It was like this other little setback, but it was again what led me to where I am right now. And it was in the midst of trying to tread water last year in 2024, I was getting to the point of like frustration and anger. I was like, why is my business not at that point? Like I've done everything. I've worked with incredible business coaches. I know my business, if I was back in Melbourne, would be where it's meant to be, if not further. And it's not. So this is now a problem, and I now need to move my family. because I cannot do business here in this city. It's not working. And my husband's like, yeah, you're right. Like, if it's meant to be, like, God's done it before, everything will just fall into place. Put our house up on the market. We had just built this beautiful home, wasn't even a year old. Put it up on the market, get the kids enrolled into a school, flew down to Brisbane, and we're like, Brisbane's a bigger city. Perfect. Like, there's bigger shopping centers. This is perfectly going to work. Like, there is so much opportunity for me here. And it's funny how God seems to work in our life in 6-week blocks, because in those 6 weeks, every single door of us moving slammed back in my face. Like, my husband, he can work from anywhere. All his business is in Melbourne. And it was like, God, what's going on? Like, I thought I told you, like, I know my vision. Why are we not getting there? Like, I just need to move my mission to another city. But one thing my husband and I agreed on from the get-go, we said, we know how God works in our life. If this is not meant to be, God, close the doors. And week 6, and we had even told our realtor, we're like, at the 6-week mark, if our house hasn't sold, take our house off the market. And it's a done deal. We're not moving. And again, it was that permission slip at the end of 6 weeks. I was like, I don't even need to ask you, God, what do you want me to do? I know what I need to do now. And that fire that I had when I spoke to you, it was almost like 12 months beforehand, was like in me. And I was like, that's it. We're unleashing this now. It is time. And this is my purpose. And this is going to be my mission that's still aligned with my vision. And I'm going to start this women's collective called Powerhouse Collective Australia. And it's not just going to be something for locals. I'm going to make this a national platform, because I never want any woman in a remote city, or if she's working a 9-to-5 job but wants that growth outside of it, or she wants to be physically in the room, she will have a platform to connect with like-minded women who want to celebrate her, who want to invite her to a seat at our table. And I did. I was like, this is it. I'm doing this. And it was so crazy, because those 6 weeks, I met all these new business owners here in Cairns, and I was like, where have you been? And they're like, oh, I've been here for like 5 years and I haven't found a network of women. And word just got out, and here I am organizing this other event at my house again. So it was December 13th, 2024, exactly 12 months since I had my little round table. I had 22 women in my home, and I just hosted them, and I said, hey, this is what my vision is for 2025. I couldn't seat all of them around my eight-seater round table, but I'm inviting you to a seat at my table. And I want to connect with you. I want you to feel like you're supported, and I will go to the ends of the earth to bring in the world's best experts to speak life into your business, to speak life into where you're at as a mother and a wife and as a single woman, to do life well. And we're going to simplify it. And we're also going to revolutionize your business, because I know my business needed a little bit of that revolution after the world happened. And that's where I'm at right now. We had our launch in January, so almost like I worked pretty much all through what was meant to be my summer break, setting up this platform, signing on new contractors, and we had 52 women at our launch. And last week I had my first guest speaker fly in from Brisbane. He's a mindset coach, because I was like, you know what? There's no point talking about business if we don't have the right mindset and we're not looking at our core and putting out there, who are we meant to be? Who is this woman that we're setting up for success? And we had 22 members sign up, and it's been incredible. And it's, just growing now. And I get to do so many things that I love, which is event organizing and event management, connecting with women and transforming their lives on a deeper level.
You just give the spiritual glow up on every level. You got events, you got psychology, you got wardrobes, you got everything
Oh,
happening right
yeah,
now.
I don't think God really knew how to just give me one thing. He was like, oh, she's a bit of a unique one.
Well, yeah, you said it. You're like, George, I don't do things small. And I'm like, well, I'm so glad we have that conversation, because you're like, well, I'm going to take this and I'm going to go here. And I'm like, perfect. That's what you're meant to do. It's beautiful. I love hearing you tell that story. Like, even for me to get to hear it, like you've shared it with me a few times, but like hearing it in its like full integrity and in the story, and like even on how we started the show, and like your life and following, that God-given gift of vision that you were given, and really truthfully, like, I'm unapologetic about my love for Jesus, and the obedience to follow it, and like to be a steward of it and become the person as you're going through it. And like for each one of these moments, like if you, of course you had to list your house again to be like, I'm not doing it here, for then the fire to come in to be like, wait, they're all here, I just couldn't see them. Like all of it is so profound and powerful, and like looking back in hindsight, like I absolutely love
I
it.
think that's also,
So
sorry, I was just going to
go
say,
ahead, you go. No, you go, cut me off.
it was the lesson in that is surrender. Like I am, I don't want to say stubborn, but I was like, God, like, like I believe I'm obedient, but that's what it took for me to surrender. Now, obviously, when I look back, I was like, there was no way I was who I needed to be and the leader that I needed to be for these women when I had that call with you. I needed to go through a few things last year to get me to that point. And God just put that icing on the cake of like, well, you're not moving because you're going to surrender to the surrender to the process of fulfilling this will of his of bringing these incredible women together. And that in itself, like from those 6 weeks, I was like, yeah, God, I really do want to surrender. And as hard as it was for me to accept, I was like, I truly believe, God, that if this is my calling, I will surrender and I will grow from this. And I'm just going to trust you and trust the uncertainty that comes with it. But I know that I'm still on part with my vision and God's vision ultimately.
Yeah, I was one of my best friends, Stacy, who I love, and I have to introduce you to her. She's been on the podcast. We joke about this all the time. We talk all the time, and our running joke is when it comes to vision, that God's the visionary and we're the
Yes.
integrators. And I posted this a couple of months ago, but when you said it, it resonated so true for me. And I posted on Facebook and I said, I forgot that I've prayed for things that I haven't yet had the character or scars to maintain. And it was just this like very like to what you spoke about, like this very humbling thing where it can summarize my entire entrepreneurial journey in this place of like, had it, lost it, did it, walked away, food blogger to in 24 hours, I never want to talk about food again, to I'm never going to be a coach, to that's all I do now. And I'm like, okay, got it. And it's just been this beautiful gift of surrender. And I think to your point, even to tie it together for people listening, this is one of those episodes where, I want everybody to resonate with what they hear and what you hear as truth, right? Like there's so much power and wisdom and even strategies and tactics in what you shared underneath that whole story of like personal resiliency. But all of us hear it different, and this episode, and even with you and your story, it just resonates. So that's why we love each other.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, same. And I'm like, yeah, stubborn to the point where God's like, are you not going to listen? Am I going to have to break every bone in your body to get you to like slow down? And even funny joking, I was telling you earlier about my best friends, Brent and Erin, who live here, incredible family of faith. And she is the most high achieving mom that exists. They had 3 under 1 at
Wow.
one point because they adopted 2 right after she gave birth,
Wow.
and they walked away from their company, a successful like 8-figure Christian publishing company, to like honor God. And she was skiing
Mm.
a couple weeks ago and fell and literally fractured her skull and broke her T5 and T6. And they're like, you probably, you might need surgery. You shouldn't be alive. You shouldn't, boom. And she's getting pulled down the mountain singing worship. And when Brent gets to the hospital, he walks in and he's like, and she's like, man, I really wish I slowed down when he asked me to, but really interested to see what God teaches me in this moment. And like, she's like battered and bloody and all of it. And I'm just like,
Wow.
and I saw her the next day and I was like, I have a lot to learn from you.
Yes.
I have a lot to learn from
Yeah.
you. And that, that surrender, and even reminds me of that book from Michael Singer, The Surrender
Mm.
Experiment, from years ago that I read. It's just, there's so much wisdom and power and in what you shared. And also, to be able to witness it as your friend and see this process, and
Yeah.
even have you have an impact on me in it, and like seeing it come to fruition. It's like, I see the vision coming to life, and the way that you shift and the way that you see it. It's just so beautiful. Like I'm honored and grateful that you shared it with everybody.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. So, tactical question in for everybody listening, and especially all my ladies listening. I'm not the guy to get style advice from, but you operate in 2 worlds now on the internet, because you still have Image Consultant
Yes.
and then you have Powerhouse Collective. Can you let everybody know? And of course, we're going to link in the show notes, but can you let everybody know, like, kind of where to find you, where to connect with you, all that fun stuff?
Yes, sure. So, Empowered by Style, which is my styling business, I have set that up to be, I can do that virtually from anywhere now. Even my overseas clients can still work with me. I don't need to be flown out or anything like that. Obviously, I've got my socials, Chantal _Togany. And then Powerhouse Collective, I've set up as a national platform. I do anticipate that we will cross over um, into the international seas. But because of the way it's been set up, is that any woman around the world can sign up to become a digital member and go back and watch the replays of all the incredible experts that we bring into our space. Or there's women all around Australia who are what we call our exclusive members. So it means that they come in person to our events each month. But we will be hosting a collective conference mid-year this year. And we just want to invite every woman to a seat at our table where they can be celebrated and welcomed, and just provide as much educational hands-on tools that they can take back into their families, into their workplaces, into their businesses, to see them grow.
Mm. And just for everybody listening, we'll have all of our stuff linked in the show notes, because I think the Powerhouse Collective Instagram, right? Then
Yes.
you have your styling Instagram, then you have your personal Instagram.
No, just 2 Instagrams. I don't, just
Just
2,
2.
just
Okay.
Empowered by
So just 2.
Style.
So what, is this? Is Empowered by Style and
Yeah,
then
Powerhouse
Powerhouse
Collective
Collective.
Australia. Yes.
Okay. And by the way, just so all the ladies listening, when I met her the first time, I was like, so tell me again what it is that you do. Like, how do you do color matches? Like, what is this color wheel? I was like, take me to church. And I was like blown
Yeah.
away looking at like what you do. And then I got obsessed and like went through every reel, and I'm like, wow, that does make a difference. And I think I just got lucky that black looks good on me, and so does pink. So like, I'm sticking with it.
Perfect.
But you can learn a lot. But ladies, especially, if any of this resonates, I'm just going to give my personal vouch. I love this woman and what she stands for, and I believe in everything that she does.
Thank
And
you.
I've got to witness the vision of this, come to life, from the parking garage conversation of like, we should get some women together, to now here you are 2 years later, and you're like, I'm launching this international women's collective, and it's going good, and it's here.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful thing to have a peek in the window of, and to know you and watch you do. And then also the deep level of gratitude I have for you being so open about your story and sharing that perspective as a woman who, went from newlywed to mother to business to walking away to alignment to move, and like continuing to push and to be the embodied
Mm.
example of like everything that you talked about, and sharing so many parts of your story. Like my hope for anybody listening is that whatever part of this tickled you, whatever part it was, whether it's, owning yourself or giving yourself a permission slip to ask yourself what your vision is, to being willing to reinvent yourself or shift your identity, or maybe just go on a shopping spree and pick some complementary colors with a color wheel
Yeah.
and have Chantal help you with that to like embody yourself. Like there's just so many nuggets that were shared. And I just ask that anybody listening, you just don't let this become self-help, right? Like these conversations are divinely timed and they happen and we hear them when we're supposed to hear them and for the reason we're supposed to hear them for. And I just trust my heart that this is perfect for you listening, for whatever one that is. And even for all my dudes listening, I love you too. This tickled my heart. So I don't want to hear it. Get in, go restyle yourself, give yourself a new haircut, grow a beard, do something, embody that new identity. But you know how you do like the wardrobe thing?
Yes.
My previous version was a new tattoo, and then I realized I was running out of space and it was kind of like permanent. But like for everyone's like, why do you keep having these hairstyles like mohawk and pink mohawk? That was me changing,
Mm.
going through that like same identity crisis. And then it was like one of those moments where you like had the black blazer. I like saw myself this pink mohawk and I loved the gimmick of it, and like my son loved it. And I looked at myself and I'm like, it's really weird that the hiding place I picked is a pink mohawk. Like I couldn't, and I was like, you know what? We had it. I was 40, midlife crisis. Let's get rid of this thing. I'm just bald. I'm good. Like this is my identity. But I thank you for sharing what you shared. And I have one last question for you.
Sure.
And you've listened to the podcast, so you might know this question.
Mm.
Um, but just imagine that everyone forgot what you've talked about, haven't heard anything, but right now you have the ability to tattoo any wisdom you want on their
Mm.
soul that they'll take with them forever. What would your tattoo wisdom for everybody listening be?
It would be to hold on to your vision and hold on to it very tight.
Mm,
Yeah.
I'll take that. And remember that alignment is a straight line and you should be a magnet to it.
Yes.
So whenever you get off course, just allow yourself to come back. I love that. That's like kind of one of my favorite. I'm adding that to like George's sticky notes of like giving Chantal credit of like alignment, a straight line,
Yes.
magnet back in. And so, well, from the bottom of my heart, and I'm sure for everybody listening who this message touched in your story, like thanks for being an example, thanks for sharing, and thanks for taking the time to spend your morning, a day in the future, and my night with me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. So for everybody listening, I humbly ask that you just take this as a reason to try something different today, to give yourself a permission slip to dream, to magnetize yourself back into alignment, to try something on for size, whether it's having 5 women over your house or 2 dudes to meet up in the woods or getting a group in a coffee shop. And if you have a vision in your heart and you have a vision in your head, now is the best time to start putting those bricks into place. And so just try it
Mm.
and you might be surprised at what happens. And so you will either see me in the next episode if you watch this, or you will hear me in your earballs. But either way, this is where we land the plane. So thank you for coming to another episode of the Mind of George Show. Remember that relationships will always beat algorithms. We love you.